Welcome to the Explainer. So get this, the US has just slammed the brakes on immigration from a whopping 75 countries. And yeah, this is a big deal. It could affect tens of thousands of people. Today, we're going to dig into a State Department memo that's signaling a massive and indefinite shift in who gets to come to America. Okay, let's just start with the number that's at the absolute heart of this story, 75. Yep, that's how many countries the U.S. State Department is freezing all immigrant visa processing for. We're not talking about a small surgical move here. This is a huge, wide-ranging halt that's affecting nations from basically every corner of the globe. All right, so what is actually happening here? What does this sudden freeze even mean? Well, the State Department has essentially put an indefinite pause on immigrant visas for a massive part of the world. Let's break down the details. Okay, so here's the breakdown from the memo. The pause? It's indefinite. We don't know when it's going to end. It all kicks off on January 21st, 2026. The official reason is that they need to reassess their screening and vetting procedures. And who does it affect? Well, that list of 75 countries is huge. We're talking places like Russia, Iran, Somalia, but also Brazil and Nigeria. And if you're hoping for an exception, the memo makes it pretty clear those will be, and I quote, very limited. Okay, so why is this all happening? The official reason behind this entire freeze really comes down to just one legal concept. It's a phrase that's been part of U.S. law for over a century, actually. It's called the public charge rule. So what in the world is a public charge? Well, basically, the term refers to a person who is seen as likely to become primarily dependent on the government for support, for subsistence. Now, the idea itself isn't new, but how it's being interpreted now, well, that's the key to this whole policy shift. And you can see the official justification laid out perfectly in this quote from the State Department. A spokesperson, Tommy Pigott, said the department is using its long-standing authority to basically block potential immigrants who might become a public charge and, as they put it, exploit the generosity of the American people. This new guidance really blows up what consular officers have to look at. I mean, it's not just about one or two things anymore. They're now instructed to look at an applicant's entire life story, their health, their age, how well they speak English, their finances, even things like a potential need for long-term medical care, or if they've used cash assistance in the past. Any of these can now be a reason for denial. To really get what's happening, you have to understand that the definition of public charge has been a political football for years. It's gone back and forth. For example, back in 2019, under the Trump administration, the definition was expanded to include a whole bunch of non-cash benefits, things like food stamps, Medicaid, housing vouchers. Then in 2022, the Biden administration reined it back in, narrowing it to mostly just cash assistance and long-term care. This new pause, it really signals we might be heading back to that much broader, more restrictive definition. So yeah, like I said, this rule is not new. It's been on the books for ages. But how it's actually enforced, that has been a total moving target, shifting pretty dramatically depending on who's in the White House. And this timeline really shows you that political tug-of-war in action. For decades, the rule was there, but officers had a lot of discretion. Then, bam, 2019, the Trump administration expands its scope in a huge way. Fast forward to 2022, the Biden administration pulls it back again. And now, this pause set for January 2026, it's the latest major swing, putting that super strict enforcement right back on the table. So where does this leave us? What happens next? Honestly, the biggest takeaway from this whole thing is just uncertainty. A whole lot of it. The State Department has given absolutely no timeline for how long this reassessment is going to take. The memo couldn't be clearer. There is no set end date. And you have to think about what that means. For countless families, for individuals in all 75 of these countries who were making plans to immigrate to the U.S., well, those plans are now just frozen. It's creating a massive backlog and an incredible amount of uncertainty for a lot of people. And that really leaves us with this final critical question. This move, it's not just about the people applying right now. It signals a potential long-term philosophical shift in who America sees as welcome. So as the U.S. rethinks who is likely to become a public charge, you have to wonder, how is this indefinite pause going to fundamentally reshape the future of American immigration policy for everyone?